Well, the typically the way it works in government is USTR, the U.S. Trade Representative's Office, negotiates the agreement, and then the Department of Commerce uh, gets it passed through Congress and enforces the agreement. This was quite a long process, and we started the negotiations in 2004, and it took quite a while. The election got in the way. After President Obama was elected, it took probably 2 or 3 years to get it to the floor. It was finally passed in 2012. So there was quite a bit of frustration on both sides. And I would say the Koreans were quite frustrated because they felt that a lot of the delay was happening on the U.S. side. It was just the politics of having one administration change for the other. Then in 2017 was when President Trump decided to renegotiate the agreement. The Trump administration, from the very beginning, they saw trade as a way of rebalancing the trade deficit. The trade deficit, as you know, is an important metric for the president. So the lens with which they looked at the world and free trade agreements had everything to do whether we had a deficit or we had a surplus. And if we had a deficit, we wanted to go after that country to balance out the agreement. That was the purpose. So we had a deficit with the Korean with Korea, and it was identified as a country with whom we wanted to renegotiate. In fact, Korea was the first renegotiation that was done under President Trump. It was sort of overwhelmed by the news on NAFTA, but the first one that was started and concluded was Korea. And of course, it was the rhetoric was that it was the worst agreement that we had ever done, and that there was a lot to do to improve it. The reality is that the new chorus, Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, it changed so little that it didn't need congressional approval. And that probably says everything because, congressional approval is important. Congress takes its responsibilities and duties very seriously, and they don't like to feel like they're being overlooked. But in this case, it wasn't necessary because it was really moving forward a little bit on the number of cars that Korea would buy from the U.S. We put a limit on Korean exports of steel to the U.S. We made some adjustments to trade facilitation at a customs level, improving customs processes to get things moving quicker. We did some modifications to the dispute settlement mechanism, but really these were tweaks. And at the end of the day, we have an agreement that looks very similar to what it looked before. But, we invested a lot of political capital in that tweak. And you may recall the statements about potentially taking troops off the border if we can't get a better agreement. And the fact that we would just pull out our agreement because unless we were able to negotiate. So it created a great deal of tension between the Republic of Korea and the U.S. at a time when we had just pulled out of TPP, which was going to be an agreement between the U.S. and several Asian countries. And pulling out of that was also quite a bit of political capital because every country in turn had to invest their own political capital to convince their constituents that this was a good idea to enter into an agreement with the U.S.